Hey, welcome to the July edition of our Mixed Media Menagerie Challenge. Laura, Erin, and I are so excited to bring you this month's challenge, which is again sponsored by Peacecraft Love. We want to thank them so much for these sponsored supplies and again providing a discount code for you. July MMM will give you 10% off on their website. So I started off by opening this fun little package from Erin for this month. We decided to limit the little ephemera drop to 10 or less items. We were all feeling a little overwhelmed by each other's generosity. So I was really excited to see the handful of items that Erin gave us to spark some ideas for this month's theme of repetition using color mixing. And then the other strange collection of things including patty paper, which is similar to deli paper. It's just a smaller size and has a little bit of a difference in texture. And our Dina Wakley Media Journals that we're all using. You can use something else if you participate in the challenge. And also the fine liner bottles and a water-soluble crayon. I forgot to pull out the fine liner bottles here from my little video, and you'll see I pull it out in a little bit for the actual page. So I started off by gessoing a spread that included a denim page in the center. I gessoed the left, the right, and rolled up the denim to prevent the gesso from getting on it. So Anna at Peacecraft Love sent us these fun brushes to help us with our color mixing. So we can use these fun little ends for mixing texture, other things. You'll see I use it a lot coming up for adding matte medium to items. And then I grabbed the brushes to practice my color mixing. I grabbed these 3 colors of golden so flat. I wanted to use primary colors, and this was the only version of yellow I had, so I wasn't sure how it would mix with the red and the blue. So I spent a few minutes here playing with the colors just to see how they would mix. I kind of have an overall idea in my head of what I'm wanting to do on these pages, and I wanted to make sure it was going to work. And then my idea evolves and changes, and you'll see how I get to the end as these minutes go on. But I'm just, if you've never color mixed before and you don't know color theory, let me just give you a tiny bit of an introduction. Feel free to skip ahead a couple minutes if you don't want to hear this or watch me play. Basically, red, yellow, and blue are our primaries, and these primaries create our secondaries. So first I started mixing the blue and the yellow, which create green. I wanted to make sure that this particular yellow would actually create a nice green, and look, it did. Some amazing teal greens and some fun other greens. And now I'm going to mix the yellow and the red to create orange. And I didn't get as much of a variety of orange here. I couldn't get it to get darker or lighter or change it up a little bit. So I'm only getting kind of one tone of orange for this mixture. And next I'm going to do the blue and the red, which create purple. And I got some beautiful red violets and purples and violets with the red and the blue. So our idea with this challenge using color mixing is to show you that you don't need the entire rainbow to get more colors. You just need the 3 primaries to create every color of the rainbow. If you mix them all, you'll get browns and blacks. You might want a white in there. If I would have added a white to these, it would have made them a little lighter and easier to see. But basically, I'm just wanting to mix these primaries to create all of the colors of the rainbow. Alright, so now that I've mixed those colors and I'm confident in my palette, I really wanted to use that golden so flat that I've been loving for this challenge. And so I did it. We can move on. And I'm tackling this denim page. I didn't want the entire denim page in the album, and the art journal. So I'm going to cut it into a triangle. So our theme this month is repetition, and you're going to notice that I create repetition in many ways. First is going to be this triangle, which I'm thinking of incorporating a color wheel somehow on my pages. I've got several ideas of how I'm going to do this. Again, it keeps changing as I create, which is pretty normal, right? I'm sure that you've started creating and ended up with a completely different product. So I cut it into a triangle to kind of look like the wedges of a color wheel. Now I'm going to prepare some more elements that I want to use on my pages. Anna also sent us this stencil to use, and I knew I'd be able to use this stencil to create even more repetition. So I'm prepping some of the patty paper, which was another one of our strange items we needed to use, by spray painting white and also flipping it over and stamping the inverse of it, and then spray painting black, flipping it over on another piece and stamping the inverse. I'm just prepping these so that I can use them in the future on my pages. Then I also knew I wanted to include a color wheel, so I grabbed this color wheel stencil. It's from Stencil Girl Products. I believe it's Pam Characters if I remember correctly, but I'm sure you can search color wheel on their website and find it. I spray painted it normal and then again pressed down the inverse several times because I'm wanting to put several color wheels on my page. You'll see that I don't put several on my page, but at least here I'm prepping for that idea. Next, I'm wanting to add some background text ephemera to my pages. I specifically grabbed this dictionary because I knew the pages were white and I didn't want yellowing on my pages. I love this dictionary. If you can find one, grab it because the pages are very thin and see-through. So they're kind of like the patty paper or deli paper. And they're kind of like, if you're familiar with like Bible paper, they're kind of like that. So it's a really fun, really lightweight paper to use on the pages. Plus it's white, so I'm not going to have to compete with any yellow color on my pages because I want the pure color from my color mixing. So I'm using these awesome brushes. I love the end of this for using the matte medium. I'm not getting my brushes junked up with matte medium that I have to clean out, and I just wiped it off with the baby wipe. So next I grabbed this canvas from Erin. I thought it was sticky back canvas. I was going to peel off the back and adhere it to this triangle, but it ended up I couldn't get the back peeled off. Maybe it wasn't sticky back. I don't know. I didn't want to mess with it anymore, so I just cut it and added some matte medium, which didn't stick as well, and then instead added some gel medium to stick this down to the front of my triangle to create a blank canvas for future creating. So I'm going to be creating repetition through my use of different shapes, through the text which is repeated on both pages, and also I'm going to add it to that triangle in a little bit, and also my use of techniques. I'm going to, after every layer, add some gesso to kind of push each layer back to add some cohesive and add that repetition of technique also to my page. I also gessoed this canvas that I had put on the triangle, and then I noticed too that it's just not sticking down on that edge as much. I wanted to add some integrity to it so it would stick, so I grabbed this masking tape. I do order an acid-free masking tape from Amazon, which is linked in my store. Just in case, I don't want it to yellow my pages. Who knows if the non-acid-free would or get brittle, so I just decided to order the acid-free. Added a little extra matte medium underneath it, again for the integrity, and as it dries I'm going to add a couple layers of gesso to disguise that masking tape as well. So I did have an idea in my head of kind of what I wanted to accomplish with my pages before I opened up the package of ephemera from Erin, and then her napkin here that she included kind of just enhanced my idea. So I wanted to use some of this napkin in my background. If you use napkins on your journal page, make sure you peel off the layers underneath of them. There's usually a layer or two of blank napkin, and you see that I just peeled that off. And I'm going to stick down these florals on my pages with matte medium using that awesome end of the brush. It worked out so great for adhering these napkins. I put matte medium behind and in front to secure this black and white floral to my page, which is why I chose to make sure I used that white text from that dictionary, because I didn't want yellow competing with the floral. So another element of repetition, which is kind of symmetry here. I'm adding the same florals to the right side of the pages. I had to cut them apart to flip them to reverse so they'd be matching or repeated how I wanted them to look, and I'm going to secure those to the page in the same way. And then I decided to add a third flower here. I think this is a carnation maybe. Added that to both pages as well, again for that same repetition element. I'm going to go in here with a little bit of gesso on top of the napkins as well, again repeating that same concept of adding gesso on top of the elements that I add for another added repetition element to the pages. So then I remembered, we were supposed to use the fine liner bottle, and I had forgotten to get it out at the beginning and grabbed it here. I'm going to use this to write some just little words on both pages, kind of in writing that you can't read, and I'm going to mirror it as best as I can on both pages. I'm using this writing to kind of join the florals and the text together to kind of make it look cohesive, that it all belongs together. And then again, here I'm going to add some more gesso on top of that writing. The same repetition of technique here to push it back and kind of make it blend in with the background. So next I'm picking up these Neocolor 2s for my water-soluble crayon element, and I had forgotten how much I love these. They're so creamy and fun to use, so I'm going to be leaving them on my desk so I reach for them a little bit more. I wanted to just really softly color in these flowers because I want them to blend in with the background and not stand out for what I'm going to do next on top of these pages. Remember, I'm wanting to add color wheels and color swatching on top of the pages, so I don't want this background to detract from what I'm going to do on the top. And so I'm going to try to mirror the colors on the left and the right to just add a tiny bit of color to the flowers on the page. As I'm working on this, I do grab a baby wipe every once in a while to even pull off some of that color. Again, just for that little hint of color, not too overwhelming, because I want to showcase the color mixing that I'm going to add on top and not have this coloring of the florals be distracting from the main focal point of the page. Now it's time to add just a little bit of grunge to these pages. One way I like to kind of add a little grungy feel to the pages or make them not look so white to add some shadowing is to make what I like to call a Stabilo puddle. I just scribble the Stabilo on some kind of a surface, usually deli paper, patty paper in this case, sometimes even an acrylic stamping block, whatever I can find. I scribble it on, use some water to make a puddle of the Stabilo so it kind of becomes like watercolor, but it really has a different feel than watercolor. You can't get this same kind of grungy, fadey kind of look with watercolor. It's really accomplished best using the Stabilo. Alright, some more repetition here, adding that text to the triangle of my journal pages. Same process with a matte medium on the top and the bottom. Then I'm going to add some gesso, and I think I go in a Stabilo too coming up, just to make this blend into the pages a little bit more and look more purposeful, like it belongs to my spread. I did add gesso, and I got a little bit too much, so this handy little scraper on the end of my paintbrush was perfect for pulling some of that gesso off of those printed pages. Next, Erin had included these fun little circle not cardboard, what are they called? Chipboard, and I wanted to actually use them to create my color wheels, so I'm going to pre-gesso them so that my colors show up true kind of colors and don't completely soak in on these little circles. And now that the gesso is dry, I'm adding my 3 primary colors to these little circles, the blue, the red, and the, I guess I'll call it yellow, even though it's technically not a yellow. And repeating the technique here of that Stabilo puddle for some grunge on the triangle flap. And now that all of that Stabilo and everything is pretty much dry, I'm going to add this stenciled element to my pages. I didn't want it to be like perfect, and so I ripped them out into different the squares separately to lay them on my page to kind of get a feel for how I wanted them to look. You're probably going to laugh as you see them keep blowing around. My air conditioning vent was blowing right on my desk at this time, so these little squares kept blowing all over my table, and I had to use various little bottles of paint to keep them in the right places. But I'm just trying to create a fun, not super structured, really kind of loose little pattern here on the edges to kind of draw your eye around the page, and to just add another fun little background element with these spray painted stenciled images that I had created earlier. Just a side note, if you've never used the spray paint before, it is so much fun. It's one of my new favorite art supplies. I've used it a lot. I use it indoors on my desk. There's not much overspray, if any. I usually get it on my hands. That's about it. And it doesn't have an awful smell. It's kind of a weird, I don't even know how to describe it, kind of an earthy smell, but it's not like offensive and it's not awful. My husband can't smell it throughout our house like he can when I use fixative on things, so it's a really great supply to use in your studio. So now I'm trying to add some grunge around these little patterns with the Stabilo to kind of blend them in the background, but it's really not working. So I decided to grab some of the So Flat Black. I really love the So Flat Black. It works a lot like the Stabilo. It's kind of cloudy, grungy, and not as dark. So I'm adding a little water to that So Flat to kind of just blend these little floral shapes into the background a little bit more so they don't stand out so much. And now all of that grungy Stabilo black and my patterns are dry. I'm going to add a little bit of gesso here, just like I've done with every other layer. Again, a repetition of technique, and also to push them more into the background, kind of show some, not show some, give it a little bit more interest. Next, I wanted to pick up this fun little scraper tool that Anna also gave us. I'm using it in the wet gesso to add some texture and some little scraping marks. On the back of the package it says you can also use on photographs and other things, so I'm looking forward to using it to grunge up some photos and other stuff in the future. A photo just wasn't right for this page, but it really made some cool marks in the wet gesso. Next, I grabbed this fun lacy, I don't even know what to call it. It's kind of like holy tissue paper. Added matte medium to the front and the back to add it to the back side of this triangle to kind of disguise the denim a little bit. It also ended up drying and looking a little bit like the cool pattern on the edges of the paper, so it really kind of created a fun different texture to that page, but also it helped it to blend into my journal pages a little bit more. So I grabbed a piece of palette paper to begin my official color mixing for my pages. So I've gone back and forth in my head with what I want to do here. I really wanted to put some color wheels on my pages, but the pages were getting too busy, and I just thought the color wheels would be too much for these pages. So I decided to just play, have fun color mixing, and add swatches to the pages. They create a fun element. I love when I see people's journal pages that have fun little swatches on them and different kind of florals and elements that kind of make it look like a sketchbook or a nature journal or like a real kind of practice book. I know you understand what I'm saying. You've seen them too. So that's what I'm creating. I wanted all the other elements to be in the background, and now my foreground, my focal point is showing showcasing really all of the amazing colors that you can get from just 3 colors of acrylic paint. I'm finding that as I'm playing, I'm starting to get even more of a variety of the oranges, some darks and some lights, and then I actually decided to be crazy and mix all 3 together and see what happened. And man, I came up with some good like cranberry fun colors you'll see as I mix. I flipped the page and concentrated on the greens on this next page. Kind of kept the colors together so it looked cohesive, but I also wanted it to look really random and fun. And so you can see here all of the amazing colors that I created with just using 3 colors of paint, mixing the primaries and then being brave and mixing all 3 of them together to get some fun, not mud, kind of mud, skewing different colors of mud together. Now I want these color blobs to look a little bit more purposeful maybe on the pages, so I'm going to circle them with the Stabilos, the graphite and the black, and activate them and just kind of pull it together. I'm not sure if I should have done this. I'm looking at it now thinking I like it without, I look at it with, and I like it with, so it goes both ways, doesn't it, when you critique your own work. I like how it added to the pages, added some more grunge, and kind of maybe pulled it together a little bit. So now to add to that kind of sketchbook look that I'm going for, I grabbed this stamp that has figure numbers on it in my archival ink, and I'm just going to stamp this to the side just to add that little kind of scientific figure look to the pages, make them look a little bit more sketchbooky. This is a fun stamp set. I do have it linked in my store if you don't have it. It's got some neat bird elements as well on it, but this cute little figure stamp is the only one I do use on my pages. So I still really want to include at least one color wheel on these pages and decided that this little triangle would be the perfect place to add it. I looked at all of the color wheels that I had created from the spray paint, and this is the very last clean off. I like how it's just really subtle. You don't see it, but it's there as a color triangle or color wheel. It's not going to take away from the other pages, but just hint at the purpose of the pages as the color mixing pages here. And then again, the triangles of that color wheel is going to be into the repetition of the triangle of the flap. And I'm using some of that Dina Wakley heavy gel to add these little circles to create my official color wheel. I didn't add the other colors. I wanted it to just show the 3 primaries, the pure colors that I used to create all of the swatches on the left and the right. And I want to add an element to the back of that triangle, so I grabbed this little cardboard piece or chipboard piece that Erin had included, chopped it off a little bit so it would be a perfect square, And it is so awesome. This little paper that she included matched that stencil that Anna had given us. So another repeated element, adding cohesion to the pages. I'm going to gesso this. At first I thought I wanted it white, and then you'll see that I changed it a little bit by adding some washi tape to it. Next I want to add a little bit more grunge to my pages. I wanted some... it's so white, I think I wanted some darker elements, so I'm just using this Bombay India ink to do some splatters and splashes on my pages. Again, kind of look like dropped ink like you've been writing, or just kind of mess up the pages a little bit. I decided I wanted to add one of the flowers to the back of this flap as well. This is one that I haven't used on the other pages. Added that to the back while it's drying. I'm going to kind of create my color wheel here with some Stabilo to make the color wheel triangle and activate it. Just some more little elements to bring the pages together. Couple final elements. I wanted to put some words on these pages and just simply decided to label the colors that I use with these little Tim Holtz stickers. It took forever to spell them out. I saved you from it. Topped it off with some matte medium to make sure they were super secure to the page, and then I decided to also add a quote to that fun little frame that I am creating on the back side. I also use those little letters to write "We live in a rainbow of chaos," which I found that Cezanne had said, which I thought was a fun little quote for the rainbow of chaos I created on both of these pages. I'm sticking it down with some of that Dina Wakley gel medium and securing it to the page. So I'm thinking that this white is sticking out a little too much. I looked over and saw the washi tape that Anna had included in our little order. She gives us little free washi tape as a thank you to her order, and I love the copper color. It's matching my pages so much, so I picked up that washi tape to change my frame from white to shiny copper, and that is the last thing I add to my pages. It tops it off perfectly. As you can see, it's changing the look of that frame a lot, so it doesn't stand out so much. And that's it. I sure hope you enjoyed following along on our mixed media menagerie for July. Make sure you check out to see how Laura and Erin interpret this month with color mixing and repetition, the fun supplies that Anna sent us from Peace Craft Love, the bundle of ephemera from Erin. Check out how they brought it all together to create their pages. I want to thank you so much for following us, and also remind you that we want you to participate in the challenge as well. You have all month. Post your creation by the last Wednesday of this month using the strange collection of things listed at the beginning. Hop over to Peace Craft Love and buy some things with that 10% off code. It'll also be at the end of the video. Make sure you post on Instagram, hashtag it with Mixed Media Menagerie, so that we can find you. You'll get next month's ephemera packet along with any sponsored gifts from our sponsor, and I already know what they are, and you are going to want to enter. We have a new sponsor next month that we are so excited to share with you. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Anna, for sponsoring us again this month with Peace Craft Love. We look forward to seeing what you create on this Mixed Media Menagerie July Challenge.